Could you live underwater?
Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
So I was watching a video the other day, and it was showing basically his excavation of like the pyramids over in Egypt and different stuff like that. And they were down probably, I don't know, stories below the ground. And it was, and that's one of my personal big fears is being in like tunnels or caves or enclosed areas like that. It's not so much a claustrophobia standpoint, but if I don't know what the other end is, or I'm terrified there might be like an earthquake or some irrational fear along those lines. But it got me thinking too about, living underwater, because at first your habitats aren't going to be that large. And it is a psychological aspect. And it's something we've talked about before, is the psychological aspects of living underwater or working underwater, and that it's not for everybody. And how much will that come into play, especially for long term? Now, I have stayed at Jules Undersea Lodge, for 24 hours, and that was not a big deal because it's 24 hours. And we went outside a couple times, and it's plenty to do there. It's a big enough habitat you can move around, and you've got space. If it was something smaller, or if it was a longer term duration, where would you go stir crazy? I think I might be fine because I'm more of a homebody than other people are. But I think that for the vast majority of people, I'm not sure that short-term, long-term living underwater is going to be, once again, from a psychological standpoint, feasible. You're going to have that access to land at any point in time, which is another reason why that at ASC I believe, that you have to be at a stance where you can come and go as you please, because people aren't going to be able to be cooped up in the room. If you go on vacation anywhere, most people don't go to their hotel room and stay there the whole entire vacation, the 2-3 days, whatever it may be. They go out and they do stuff. And same thing with living underwater. You're not going to just stay there the whole time, even if it is for a vacation. So that's why, in decompressing, people aren't going to deal with that. That's a barrier to have to combat, and therefore a lot of people aren't going to be game for that. They're not going to want to spend several hours when they want to go out for dinner, or go to the beach or something along those lines from their underwater resort, underwater home, underwater business, whatever it may be. So the need to make this psychologically impactful as well is just as important as any design element. So the question comes down to, in this short that we're doing right now, is, and I think I've asked this question before, but from a psychological standpoint, how long do you think you would be able to stay in a small environment before you're like, oh, I'm getting a little stir crazy, especially if you weren't a scuba diver and you had to just stay in this thing. Say it was the size of Jules, which is spacious enough. It's 2 bedroom areas, a long living room and dining room area, and then there's a middle bathroom area in the whole thing. How long would you be able to stay down there before you're like, I gotta get some sunlight, I gotta get to the surface, I need to go somewhere, I need to see something different? Could you last a week, a month, or just a day? I'd be curious on people's feedback on what their breaking point is, or could you do it at all? And that's the other thing. I know several people that they feel the claustrophobia of being in a small environment like that, and they just feel like they couldn't do it, or just the fear of being underwater, and that, once again, irrational fear like I have of being underground, that they would have of being underwater. So how long could you stay underwater.